This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome and happy Fantopia Friday. I'm Erica Lukes. Always just so excited to spend my Friday evenings with you and to be here on a network like KCOR. We have a wonderful night of shows on Friday night, so stick around. It will be great. Of course, it is never a dull moment in my life, and I try so hard to stay out of trouble. I think I did it for maybe 12 hours, but I cannot stop looking into this and pushing boundaries. For me, the questions that looking into the paranormal, into the UFO realm, all of these things, it is in my blood. And as I look back historically, when I was a small child, this touched me at a very, very young age. And I'm in the process of putting all of these interactions that I had, the things that shaped my life, that put me here. I am in the process of getting that in a book that I will get out there, along with a couple other things that will be coming out. And I look forward to doing that. It is truly, my life has been an awe-inspiring experience, and so I want to share that with you. I wouldn't be here tonight talking to the woman that I'm talking to if I didn't have experiences that blew my mind, that frightened me, that made me want to become a better person. And each week I bring you people that I find are very critical to my development as a researcher. And I hope that in turn you take what they're saying and you can also expand what you're moving through in a personal way. Rosemary Ellen Guiley has been one of those people that I have looked up to for a long, long time. I respect her tremendously. She is a brilliant woman in a field that is oftentimes fraught with dysfunction, but she has managed to steer clear of all of that and really put her boots on the ground and done groundbreaking work. She's a full-time researcher that began researching this back in 1983. She has authored more than 60 books in the paranormal, body, mind, spirit fields. Her work embraces all of this, the paranormal, unexplained, cryptids, UFOs, alien contact, psychic development, angels and spirits, you name it. And if it has to do with something unknown, she is pushing the boundaries. Rosemary lectures internationally and makes numerous media appearances. She is the former host of Strange Dimensions Radio, and in the past served on the board of the International Association for the Study of Dreams, the Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters, and the Academy for Spiritual Consciousness Studies. She is a regular contributor to The Conspiracy Show with Richard Syrett and Exploring Unexplained Phenomena. She is on Coast to Coast, but her titles of her books, I mean, I'm just looking at this thinking, I want to download, like an immediate download. Guide to Psychic Protection, Guide to Psychic Power, all of these things are wonderful, and I can't wait. I'm so honored to have, Rosemary, I'm so honored to have you here today.
Well, Erica, it's a great pleasure to join you on the show tonight, and I know we have a lot of common interests in our research. And so many intersections, too, between UFOs and the paranormal, mysterious creatures, mystical experiences, spiritual development. They all overlap. And you and I and other researchers, we're really on the cutting edge of a lot of exciting developments.
And I want to thank you for really, truly standing up and saying that this is all interconnected. And there's so many, as you know, so many people that try to put each phenomena in a little box, and then we're overlooking very critical factors with all of this.
It is a hazard in the field to compartmentalize. Yet for me, from the very beginning, and I've been interested in these topics for really all of my life, but when I started serious research and I began my professional pursuits, the interconnectedness of everything just really jumped out at me. And so I didn't want to focus on just one particular area. I'm curious anyway. I call myself, Curious Georgette, Jill of all trades, because I like to know as much as I can about as many things as possible. But it was important for me to understand these connections, to make the dot connections. And I see more and more researchers doing that now. And I think it's going to result in a lot more fruitful research in terms of our understanding about alternate realities, other life forms, whether they're in physical form or spirit form, our purpose, our soul purpose, all of the big questions that humans have grappled with throughout our entire history.
And so did you have an experience as a small child? I mean, why did you feel that you are on this path? Because obviously for me and for most people that I come in contact with, things happened at a very young age.
I have found that to be the case, that most people who wind up in these fields have had early experiences that have propelled them in this direction. For me, it wasn't a single experience, but rather a collection of experiences. And I think a natural opening as well. Now, children are naturally psychic, and they have a lot of experiences with ghosts, with the dead, with fairies, angels, these experiences tend to drop off as most people get older because they become interested in other things, and it's the way we start learning how to socialize ourselves and get along in the world. But for some people, and myself included, I never really lost my connection with these liminal realities, these other awarenesses. I was not any kind of psychic wonderkin by any means, but I did grow up in a family where the female members of my family, my mother, my grandmother, and my sister, all had some degree of psychic sensitivity that was different in each of us. And so things that I took for granted as I got older, I discovered that not everybody has these experiences. They weren't frightening to me. I didn't have any scary experiences. My mother was very unsettled by a lot of the things that she experienced. I don't know about my grandmother because she died when I was very young. I just knew that she had some sensitivity. And it made me curious as to why things that I took for granted, and I knew that other people did who had these experiences, why for yet other individuals these things were not real. They were even denied. And so that propelled a lot of my early study. And I wanted to understand more about the things that I was experiencing. So from a very early age, being a voracious reader, I was into the paranormal, into horror stories and science fiction and fantasy. I harbored early aspirations to be an astronomer. And if I hadn't had a head-on collision with math, I might have been an astronomer. But I think I really was born to be a writer because I did write from a very early age. And so I combined my personal interests and curiosity with my professional development as a writer, and that's what's led me on all this path. So the more I've gone into these areas in terms of research and study, that has broadened out my experiences, and I've had all kinds of experiences, the gamut, from the creepy, scary stuff to the mystical and even rapturous experiences where you have an uprush of energy and you feel connected to everything that is. And these experiences, in turn, then propel me even more to study and understand what's going on. So my purpose as a writer and researcher has been to explore these areas and help people come to terms with their own experiences. I've never felt that I had to prove anything. My work is not about trying to prove the paranormal or prove aliens or prove anything, especially to the skeptics. They can come around to that on their own. But rather address an audience of experiencers, people who are grappling with the nature of their experiences, how to understand them, how to integrate them, especially when people are confronted with something that contradicts what they've been taught. How do we integrate these experiences so that we become wiser, our vision is broadened, and we become more citizens of the universe, so to speak?
Well, I think it's interesting. Most people that have these experiences, I mean, I remember being a small child and watching a show on whaling, and I immediately wrote a letter to President Ford talking about, and I was just this little child that was in tears because of what we were doing to these beautiful creatures. And lo and behold, and I wish I still had it, they sent me back a packet of information on what the Ford administration was trying to do. And so, and I know that this is the case with so many of us. We truly have a connection to the earth, to living creatures, and all of us, or most of us, want to see the betterment of mankind.
I really do think that most of the people researching in this field are about the advancement of humanity and our understanding and our noble nature. For all of the problems that human beings engage in and even create, humanity does have a noble side to its nature. And this is what continually propels us to higher knowledge, to enlightenment. And those of us who are in the trenches and the front lines in the paranormal and ufology, mysterious creatures, afterlife communications, spirit communications, that's what we're doing. We're pushing out the boundaries of what we know and understand, and that is for the betterment of humanity.
And I love that. I love being around like-minded people. But as you know, being prominent in this field, it comes with a lot of hazards, a lot of pitfalls, and it attracts people that perhaps are mentally imbalanced, or people that simply want to profit or have their ego stroked by being king of the hill. And that for me has been the biggest disappointment, because when I became public in all of this, I thought everybody had the same intention in mind, which was this beautiful discovery process. And I've learned that, that's clearly not the case, but that is a little disappointing.
Well, I think it is human nature for egos to come to the fore. We all have egos, and it's human nature to want to be king of the hill, too. So there is a lot of jockeying and jostling that goes on, but you just kind of have to take it in stride.
Well, that's good. I've gone to therapy a lot. I've read more self-help books than I can count, so it's getting me through. And then also, talking to people like you, who I find can get me. I mean, you've been through so much more than I have, and you can lend me assistance or advice. And you were very kind to have that wonderful conversation with me a couple of weeks ago, and I really appreciated that. But that's the way that I learn and try to stay grounded and focused as a public figure in this field and someone who cares about it. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome, Erica. It was a great conversation. I always enjoy networking with people. One of the things that I've emphasized in recent years for researchers is that in order to to really deal with all of these new frontiers unfolding, especially in alternate realities, we really have to become Renaissance men and women. And centuries ago, the Renaissance man, it was usually a man, of course, because women didn't pursue these things. But the Renaissance man was a person who was well educated in a very broad sense. And that gets back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago about the interconnectedness of everything. So multidisciplines, knowledge, good working knowledge, and a depth of knowledge in many areas, and the ability to bring everything together into a big picture and into some sort of synergistic understanding that was greater than the sum of all of the parts. And I think that's the challenge that we face now, all the men and women in these fields, is that we have to be Renaissance researchers. And it does, of course, have to involve science, but it has to involve metaphysics, spirituality, subjective experience. And I think this is the big stumbling block for so many of us, and certainly for science. Science, which wants to look at hard facts and figures and data and things that can be replicated and sort of mapped out. And yet when it comes to all of these areas and people's experiences, they're subjective, they're fluid, there are patterns to them, certainly, but they often have unique characteristics, and they're screened through a very unique lens of the experiencer. And so it's up to people like us to try and make sense of all that.
And so I want to get a little bit of background for people that are new to you, and I have a lot of younger listeners, but tell us about how you first, back in 1983, decided that you were going to go for this, and what was the area of focus at the time?
Well, it was literally the blood of my father that launched me out. And I will say that, earlier in life, I did a lot of writing. I was a natural writer. I wanted to be a writer and write about all of these things that I was passionate about. But I got on a corporate track. I went to college, got a degree in journalism, had various jobs in journalism, in newspapers, wire service, magazines. And my last salaried job was for a very large multinational corporation. And I was an in-house editor, and I had a big budget, lots of money to play with. I made a very good salary, and I was bored to tears. Yet I was, like a lot of people, thinking, when is the ideal time for me to do what I really want to do? And everybody has those aspirations, and yet we have responsibilities and things that we have to manage. And it's easy to sit back and say, well, I've got to wait for the perfect set of circumstances for me to take a risk. And so I was playing literally the when-then game, which a lot of my colleagues at this company were playing as well, because some of them were writers on the side. And the when-then game was, when this happens, when that happens, then I will. When I do this, when I get that, when I accomplish this, it's just an unending string of things that we put in front of ourselves in order to put off taking a risk. There's really 3 delaying games that I call them. There's when, then, what if, and if only. And what if is like, what if I take a risk and I fail? So it's easy not to do anything. And the if only is, if only I didn't have, and it's usually some kind of obligation or burden or difficulty or obstacle that we perceive is going to keep us from taking a risk. So in the early 1980s, that was what I was doing. I was on the fast track at a job that I did not find to be very creatively stimulating, and sort of nurturing my dreams of being a writer, but playing the when-then game. And my father, I was very close to my father. We were both amateur astronomers. I couldn't be a professional astronomer, but I could be an amateur astronomer. And we were both amateur astronomers. And my dad had an aneurysm and died on the operating table. So there was that sudden shock, of course, and it was kind of like my own reckoning with my mortality as well, and that's why I call it the blood of my father, because it really hit me quite hard that it doesn't matter how old you are. You never know what day is going to be your last. You might die when you're 20, you might live till you're 90. You just don't know. And so if you are not spending your time, and all we have is the now, doing what you feel you must as a soul and a human being, pursuing your passion, then you should get right to it, because all you have is the now. You may not have tomorrow. And so in my grief, I got out Raymond Moody's works again. I had been very deeply affected a few years earlier by his groundbreaking book on near-death experiences, Life After Life. And I reread that, and then I decided that I could not delay anymore, that I really had to do what I felt called to do. And so within 6 months, I was gone from that job. And it was a good job. I don't really have any complaints about it. It just wasn't right for me. But my family was astonished, and my friends were astonished, because I had this, what looked like, made in spades kind of job. And I was giving it up to be a writer, and people told me I would starve. What did I want to do that for? I was on a path to ruination, and I never looked back. I'm up to about 67 books now. I never looked back. I never regretted it. And so since 1983, and it's well over 30 years now, I have been pursuing my passion, and I love it. My life is my work, and my work is my life. And I've had good times and bad times. I've had moneyed years and poor years, but it all evens out, and I make my living this way, and make a fairly good living at it.
And I love that. And we're going to break really quickly, and I want to just tell people to go to visionarylivingpublishing.com to see all of your books, to purchase your books, to learn more about you and some of the great writers that you have working with you. And I want to talk about your publishing company, too, when we get back. But there's so much. I'm Erica Lukes, happy to be here with Rosemary Ellen Guiley. Stick around. I will ask your questions. We will be right back.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified. UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Here's what happened on the last episode of Three Guys, No Ties.
I picked up my daughter, and she was suspended for 2 days in school for bringing her horny toad there. So I worked for a law firm, which the owner of the law firm then paid money to get my daughter's horny toad registered as an emotional support pet, so my daughter can get that horny toad.
Three Guys, No Ties. Wednesday nights, 7 to 9 Pacific on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is your captain. I'd like to welcome you on Jackpot Airlines Flight 1610, service to Lost Wages.
They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, apparently, they need a reality check done Vegas style.
Vegas, 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 Vegas.
Tune Tune in Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, for Reality Check, hosted by Jessica Johns, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Biggest star in the world, bigger than Britney and Christina put together.
If it's happening on the Vegas Strip, you'll know about it here first.
You are a dirty little fun haver.
Join Jessica Johns as she explores and goes behind the scenes of what's hot and what's not. From the best entertainment Vegas has to offer to national celebrity gossip.
That's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Jessica has her finger on the heartbeat of the city, and she's waiting to share it with you. Reality Check, hosted by Jessica Johns. Wednesday, 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern. She does Vegas right.
Yeah, baby.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug's adoption story started at a shelter. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
One of the planet's most powerful antioxidant products is here for you to enjoy. Chaga Mushroom Tea. This tea has been used as a potent natural health solution for thousands of years. In fact, the Chinese call it King of the Herbs. The health value alone is worth a look, as Chaga Mushroom Tea packs a punch with pure vitality and smooth energy. It's 100% wild crafted, safe, and effective. Get it now at arcticchaga.com. That's ARCTICCHAGA.com, or call 916-969-2678. That's 916-969-2678. Chaga Mushroom Tea. Chaga Mushroom Tea. Order your supply today.
It's great. I think it's great. It's great.
The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great. Please make a note of it. It's great.
Dear John, I'm leaving. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is serious, and I can quit whenever I want. Why can't we get back to when you checked on me? I don't want to leave, but remember, when I quit, you quit. Sincerely, your heart.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range today. Find out how at heart.org/blood pressure. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes. Welcome back and happy Fantopia Friday. I'm Erica Lukes. Always happy to see my people in chat. And every time I get in there, there are new people. I want to give a shout out to my friend Norm. A special thanks to Northern UFOs, who's always helping me get the word out. And I would appreciate it if each of you could spread information out about UFO Classified. I'm trying really hard to make a good quality show where people can learn and get information that is relevant and information that will help each of you grow and learn and try to see through some of the landmines that we can step on sometimes if we're not careful in this field. I am here tonight with a very intelligent, strong woman who is, I think, now my newest hero. Rosemary Ellen Guiley is a full-time researcher and author of 65 books. She researches the paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, life after death, all of these things, and she has some great information for specific areas in the world, like Skinwalker Ranch, and in places that have all types of this phenomena going on. And I'm going to talk to her about that in a little bit. But when she left off, we were talking about her father passing away and some of these things that really put her on the track. And so, Rosemary, please continue with that. And I'm sorry I had to cut you off right before break.
Oh, I entirely understand, Erica. Having been a former radio host myself, I know all about breaks, and I never mind being just cut off. So I think a lot of us have these moments, crisis moments or epiphanies, where we realize we really have to shift gears and get on with what we're really meant to do. And that's what happened to me with the passing of my father. I was really galvanized by that. And as I mentioned, it was my confrontation with my own mortality. And so taking a risk, then it's easier than you think. Even if you have a lot of responsibilities, people have, children they have to raise and family members they have to look after, all kinds of things going on. But nonetheless, there are ways to take risks where we can follow our dreams, so to speak, pursue our passion, fulfill what we feel is our true purpose in life. It's very important to do this because each of us does come into life with a purpose. And fulfilling that is it's essential to our well-being, to our destiny, to the other lives that we impact. And it's so easy to get boxed in and to feel that you have very few options. So I always encourage people to take a risk.
And I love that. And that has been, I've been really lucky that my whole life has been all about taking risks. And as a result, I have had more amazing experiences than, I swear I have lived 100 lives in one lifetime. And I encourage people as well to take risks, because you will never achieve what you deserve to achieve if you don't.
Well, exactly. And for me, being a writer and being independent, I've always been independent-minded anyway, but I've really enjoyed that, pursuing my own path, calling my own shots, having a lot of latitude to decide what I'm going to pursue. And it's really enriched life for me. And I love meeting people and hearing about their experiences. I love probing the mysteries, and it's always exciting. It's never a dull day, literally.
And isn't that the best? I love it. I mean, sometimes it can be a bit much, but I love having that excitement, because you learn so much. Even if it's not about the phenomena, it's about, you learn about human interactions, you learn about geology and space. And it's just been a huge honor for me to be able to go down this path.
Well, for example, one of the most exciting things I think that researchers are facing today, I don't know if facing is the right word for it, but it's the expansion of consciousness into alternate realities. And I think that's where a lot of the experiences are going that we're seeing in so many fields, where human evolution is going. And the experiencer, whether the experiencer is an ET experiencer or Bigfoot experiencer, ghosts or whatever, when you have experiences with alternate realities and otherworldly beings, it expands consciousness, and you're never going to go back to your old self. More and more people are having these experiences, and that's one of the things that's been coming to light with research, that it's staggering to think how many people around the planet are having extraordinary experiences on a daily basis. And by that, I mean just a lot of people having experiences on a daily basis, not necessarily individuals, that will change our perception of reality, change reality itself, will change our concepts of time, and will open more and more doorways to engaging with the existence of other life out there, whether it's in spirit form or physical form. These are exciting things to pursue, and they have a good side and a shadow side to them, of course. And so I think that today we're living in very exciting times. Maybe you could say that about any era, but this advancement of consciousness is something that mystics predicted in the 19th and 20th century. Mystics predicted for very far in the future, and we're hurtling headlong into these changes at exponential speed now. So I think it's really important for the people researching all of these fields, especially in ufology, in afterlife communications, spirit communications, and to some extent the paranormal, to really be up to speed on all of this.
And so tell us, because I know that you've done extensive research with the jinn and shadow people. And for myself, I have had several experiences with shadow people, and I'm sure most people that have had, seen a UFO, had paranormal experiences. This is pretty standard. But can you tell us about what you've learned in your research?
Well, about shadow people in particular, I started studying them in 2004. And usually when I start targeting an area of research, it's because something comes to my attention in an extraordinary way. And I started getting emails, unsolicited emails and inquiries from people describing similar experiences, wanting to know what was going on. And that kind of got me going in terms of, well, what's this phenomenon all about? And I think shadow people are a very common experience, probably more common than even ghost experiences, and residual ghost energy is everywhere on the planet. But they seem to be, well, some people describe them as neutral because they don't do anything, even though they're kind of scary. But many of them seem to have a hostile or negative intent. I think they are very intelligent beings. They certainly fit a pattern with the jinn entity in terms of the way they kind of mess around with people. They are literally energy vampires, many of them, because they seem to suck off the life force from people, and they will often assault people at night. They're bedroom attackers. But there are shadow people that are out in the landscape, out in the woods, drifting around homes and buildings, seemingly pursuing their own purposes without much regard for the human beings that coexist with them. It's almost like they're in another dimension that occasionally intersects with ours. So this is a very common phenomenon, and usually when I hear about it, it's because people have been terrified by their experiences. And sometimes they can be difficult to banish. Sometimes they go away rather easily. Other times they're rather clingy and very attached to the environment or to people, and they seem to have purposes and motives. We share this planet with all kinds of beings, and I think that we do exist side by side with parallel realities, parallel worlds, and that even many of the beings that we call ETs and the craft that we call UFOs really don't come from outer space. They come from these parallel realities. So a lot of our experiences are really close to home. And they do involve the positive and the negative, and I would class shadow people as mostly negative with some neutral. I occasionally hear from people who feel that shadow people are protectors of theirs, but that's very rare.
And so what would be the typical scenario of somebody having a shadow person encounter?
The most common is the middle of the night bedroom assault, and it has a lot of similarities to the old hag syndrome, which is where you wake up and you're paralyzed, you can't move, you can't cry out. There's a horrible presence in the room that you may or may not see, and it might jump on you with a terrific weight on your chest so that you feel very suffocated or choked. And this is a tangible presence. The shadow person is, they're called shadow people because they have humanoid shapes. And most of them look like a dark silhouette, very dense black, blacker than black, it's often described, silhouette of a tall male wearing a coat and sometimes a hat. That's the shape they take. There's usually no facial features. Occasionally eyes are seen. And they glide very quickly around. They can morph. They can turn into black clouds, mist, smoke. They can disappear. I've also had them described as being quasi-human and animal-like in some cases. But mostly it's this tall 6-foot to 7-foot figure. It's very imposing and radiates a lot of negative energy. And a person will wake up and see this entity in the doorway or beside the bed and become terrified, understandably. Sometimes as soon as they're observed, these figures will leave, but they've terrified the experiencer, who doesn't know what they are, what they want, and worse, what if they're going to come back? And sometimes they will jump on the person in bed and with this great weight pressed down on them as though they're trying to suffocate or choke. And I've had people describe to me being in what they say are the fights of their lives. They're trying to struggle against this entity. They fear that they're going to die. And then quite often, as suddenly as this entire episode starts, it ends and the figure vanishes, which isn't a Hollywood ending, of course, a Hollywood horror film ending, but as I mentioned, it leaves the experiencer in a very fragile and terrorized state because you don't know what's happened or why. And what if this thing comes back? In other words, what are my defenses against this ever happening again? And so that's the typical experience.
And so, I mean, I have spoken with medical professionals and you always hear, okay, well, that was sleep paralysis. This can be explained by, A, B, C, and D. But for myself, I've had a couple of those experiences. I have a hard time believing that that's the case. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, certainly we do have to allow for people having nightmares that project into the environment. But this is really different than that because these experiences have definite patterns to them that are worldwide. They can't be written off as nightmares that extend into waking consciousness. And the shadow people also have other environments that they're in. They can be seen in the daytime, as for example, as well as nighttime. I think that when they assault people at night, that's when we're vulnerable. And there is something to the sleep paralysis to it. We have natural sleep paralysis every time we sleep. And it's been my speculation that these intelligent entities know that. They know our sleep cycles, and they take advantage of that, and they may even be able to exacerbate it, make the sleep paralysis worse, so that the victim then is very helpless. So they can't just be explained away like that. It's too common. It goes back to antiquity. One of the best studies that was done of the old hag syndrome, which is comparable to shadow person, was David Hufford, who wrote The Terror That Comes in the Night. And it's he's an academic, and it's a very good analysis of sleep, these kinds of sleep-related experiences, and that there is no, there's not even any one explanation that fits for them. But sleep disorders can be ruled out in most of these cases. There does seem, interestingly, Erica, there does seem to be a consciousness-related factor, and this has always been of interest to me in my research as well, that the consciousness of the person determines the experience. And maybe that sounds obvious to a lot of people, but it certainly explains why there are some individuals with special antennas, so to speak, that they're the ones who always see the UFO and nobody else does, or very few people, or they're the ones who always get the ghost in a house. The ghost will, the ghost or the spirit presence in a haunted location will be very attracted to them and not somebody else, or they get the ghost photograph and somebody doesn't, or the EVP and somebody else doesn't. And I think this is something in the natural consciousness field of certain individuals. We're born with frequencies in our consciousness, and some people have, I guess you would say, these more combustible mixes, where if they are in an environment where these alternate reality presences are active, they're going to be the focal person, and more so than other people. And so some of these entities, I think they respond to this energy around human beings. If they want to engage with human beings, they can track that radar, so to speak, and zero in on particular people, because there are some people who are what I would call serial experiencers of shadow people, and other people who have maybe one or two experiences, and then, that's it.
Wow. And, as you sit here talking about all of this, I mean, this just reminds me of so many different experiences that I've had in my life. And I want to tell you before we go to break, when I had two really frightening experiences that I had, and it's been in the past 2 years. One was at Syrett Ranch at night, and one was in Hestelen, Norway. And so in both places, I'm in places that are known to have very interesting things taking place. And in both of this whatever came to me at night, I was paralyzed, and literally something was inserted in my neck both times. And I tried to scream. It was absolutely terrifying. And so I wonder, personally, since I'm in this and I'm an experiencer or somebody who's had all of these things happen since I was in that area, if it just all this came up like you're talking about, and that's why I had that experience.
Well, I'm particularly interested in the Syrett experience you've had, because I've been to Syrett several times, and I've just had benign experiences there. But it is a highly charged area. It's the land is energized. There's a lot of activity of all kinds that goes on there. And so I can understand how some people might have, different kinds of experiences, even kind of scary ones. But our emotional states also impact our experiences. And this is one thing that I discovered with shadow people, that there was a subset of experiencers that had a sudden onset of these assaults or encounters when their lives were in upheaval. They were going through financial problems, health problems, marital problems. In other words, life was in chaos, and they were unhappy, sad, depressed, angry, fearful, all of those things rolled together. And suddenly they started having these shadow figures show up. And for some of these individuals, the experiences stopped when they got past that, when they got their lives back into a balance and stability. So we throw off energy and emotion, and it seems that a lot of these shadow people feed off that negative energy. And I've also speculated that one of the reasons why they create an atmosphere of fear in a nighttime assault is because when you're suddenly terrified, you're going to throw off a lot of adrenaline and that fight or flight reaction. And adrenaline energy might be something that is appealing to them as well, something that they might vampirize. So I'd like to hear more about what happened to you at East SETI. It sounds like
yeah, I would love to tell you, and I will honestly say that I was there, and there were I think that it might have to do with some of the people that were there at the time, instead of in whatever that energy combining with mine and then being on that land. I think it was a combination of things. But I would love to share that with you, and I will do that. Before we go to break, I just want to ask you, because Norm has asked in chat, do you think that the shadow people are demonic in nature?
Well, they're certainly demonic in their behavior, and defining a demon gets to be very tricky, and that's something we can take up after the break, because I think it's a complicated kind of picture. But I classify them as negative and hostile, and maybe that's the best way to describe them. I mean, demons certainly are hostile as well, but they are intelligent beings, and many of them are hostile in their approach to humans and their motives and purposes, and they use humans in a very hostile way.
And I look forward to hearing more about that. I think it's incredibly important. I'm Erica Lukes here with Rosemary Ellen Guiley. You can go to visionarylivingpublishing.com to learn more about all of her wonderful works. I recommend getting all of them, which I'm going to start doing. I'm going to add more to my wonderful collection. I will be back after the break, so stick around. The best is yet to come.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
This landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to the second half of UFO Classified. I am happy to be here on Friday night to look out into chat and to see all of my friends who support this and who really, truly want good information. Thank you for supporting UFO Classified, and I want to give, again, a big shout out to Northern UFOs. So thank you so much for your support. My guest this evening is the legendary Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who is one of the world's leading experts in paranormal and metaphysical studies. She has published more than 65 books on a wide range of topics. All of her books have been translated into 15 different languages, and she looks at everything, which I really appreciate, because all of this it has to do with spirit communications, dream work. And I've got to throw this in there, Rosemary, while I'm thinking about this. When you talked about, and this is Rosemary Ellen Guiley, and I'm sorry to just go right into this, but I want to mention after we get done talking about what you were talking about before we went to break about Kundalini rising. And I want to touch on that a little bit before we venture on. But you were just talking about some of the ways that these subtle shadow creatures, these shadow entities, beings can manipulate us, drain our energy, and feed off of our adrenaline in that fight or flight instance. And so what sort of protection do we have? How can we know that they're there and then protect ourselves so they're not feeding off of us?
Well, there are a number of things that can be done in general that I think just bolster your energy field as in a prophylactic kind of way. And then there are specific things that can be done. And in general, this is going to sound very prosaic to a lot of people, but I believe that daily meditation is one of the best things you can do to strengthen your energy field. It's like going to the psychic gym. It gives you a very firm connection to the earth. It gives you a very firm connection to the spiritual planes. And it helps to balance all the chakras. It helps to open the third eye. It helps to spiritualize energy, your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. It helps to balance all of those bodies. And so that's really one of the most important things that we in these fields can do. When I've gone into areas that are heavy, whether it's paranormal or problematic landscape, something like that, there are some things that I do that are extra. And one is to do some shielding and light. And it's not just white light, but I put a layer of violet light right next to my body, and then I put white light over that. And the violet light is a very high vibration. It's related to the crown chakra. It's related to the flame of truth. And there are three things that negativity has difficulty with in terms of standing up to it. One is unconditional love. One is the light of absolute truth. And the other is the light of the Godhead, however you define the Godhead. And so meditation puts you in contact with all of these things. I do the shielding and the light. I've had a very close relationship with the angelic realm for most of my life. Those were, going back to my childhood, those were a lot of my early experiences with angels. And so I will frequently wear angel medals, and I talk about them in the Guide to Psychic Protection. Every angel has a seal, has its own seal, and the seal, it's a collection of symbols it's like shorthand, that it connects you to the energy of that angel. And I usually wear Uriel because Uriel holds the solar flame of truth, and absolute truth is a very powerful tool and a weapon. And Michael also is very good for that. So I believe in calling upon the angels as well. With every negative kind of entity has particular things that it will react, it will retreat from, I should say. And sometimes you have to experiment. For example, if people are being plagued by certain kinds of negative activity, there might be certain things that can help to banish that or at least level it out in an environment. The Seal of Solomon also is a very good amulet for protection. And I've had people with jinn problems say that they've had a lot of relief when they started wearing the Seal of Solomon and keeping it around their bed. Negative entities will react against iron. That's a very old remedy. And iron railroad spikes pounded around the house, put in windowsills, around doorways, can influence or banish things like shadow people attacks. Mind you, there are some entities that it's no matter what you do, they're going to get around it. They're just determined, they're powerful. You can throw anything at them and they keep on coming. And others will be deterred very easily. So it's not a level playing field out there. There are certain scents that can help an environment. Saging is nice for kind of leveling things out, but if you've got heavy-duty problems going on, it's like spraying Glade in the house to try and get rid of something. It's just not going to work, and you've got to do something else. Crystals can help to some extent. If a person is under psychic attack, there are body postures that can deflect hostile energy. You close up the circuits in your body in certain ways so that the energy is deflected rather than being absorbed. There are things you can place around your bed at night to alter the energy of the environment that makes it more difficult for certain negative entities to come in. With shadow people, many people have gotten relief by leaving the lights on or a TV on. And there seems to be something about the generation of electricity and EMF into the environment that is difficult for them to manifest. So there's a whole host of things that can be brought to bear, but there's no, one-stop formula that takes care of everything. You have to have an arsenal of things available to you and know what to use in certain circumstances, or sometimes you just have to experiment.
And when you say, talk about leaving the TV on and a light on, when I was very, very young, I was and I still sleep with the light on somewhere in my home, but I had to have the radio on every single night. So I had that distraction and have the light on, and so that's very interesting to me that you would say that.
I've run into that so often, and I've collected. Oh gosh, I'm probably in the thousands now since 2004 of experiences with shadow people and jinn and negative entities, and this, especially with the shadow people, this comes up again and again, the use of TV, lights. I've also had people say they've left the radio on, or sometimes the computer being on too in a room will help. But in some cases, and it depends on the circumstances, a lot of these entities are opportunistic. They're going for easy hits. And if something becomes too difficult, they'll go away and find another target. And in other cases, they've got some axe to grind, and they're going to grind it. And so they almost have the capability of a mutating virus. Something will make them go away for a while, and then they're back. It doesn't affect them anymore. For example, I've had people say that prayer will send the entities away. And so they'll say something like the Lord's Prayer. These are serial experiencers that are plagued again and again. They'll say silently the Lord's Prayer, and that'll make the entity go away. And then suddenly it doesn't make the entity go away anymore. And that's very unsettling to some people if they feel that their faith, their religion is no longer their barrier or their defense. And then you've got a whole other crisis on your hands. So some of these situations can be very tricky to deal with. I've had cases that I've followed for years, and some of them just don't resolve. There are what I would call affected or even tainted landscapes that belong to certain entities, and they don't like people around. And if people come around, they're going to do everything they can to push the people out. And in some cases, they succeed. Any paranormal investigator has seen these cases where there's a revolving door in a house. The people don't stay very long because there's something there that doesn't go away, and it's going to attack anybody who comes in there over and over again. And I think that in many of these cases, it's the land. The entities occupy the land. They were there before us. We come along and build a house on top of the land, and the entities consider us squatters on their territory. And sometimes they move off and go somewhere else. Sometimes they coexist. They don't bother people. And other times they act out.
And, you say this, and I know that you have personally been on investigations and you've seen this happen, but I think of Skinwalker Ranch and that whole area. I mean, this has been very, very negative for a lot of the people who have been on the ranch or are in surrounding areas. Traumatic for some of these people.
Well, of course, I've only been out to Skinwalker once, not inside the gates, just around the perimeter and up on the observation points. The Native Americans have said that that land belongs to the Skinwalkers. It's their territory, and people shouldn't be there. And if that's the case, then no wonder all of those crazy things have gone on there.
So you have talked about, what with these entities. I mean, they were here before us, and when you get into their space, they're going to do everything they can to make sure that you're not comfortable and that you leave. And you've talked about in different interviews about digging on properties and disturbing the land, and we've heard about that taking place up at Skinwalker Ranch and some of the negative effects it has had. And so what are the other things that can really rub these entities the wrong way and eventually maybe inflict harm on the people that are there?
Well, in some cases, let me back up a minute. I would say in a good chunk of these cases, it's a territory thing. And if we look at fairy lore, we run into the same issue, that the fairies have their territories, and this was well documented in earlier times, especially in Celtic lore. Our ancestors knew that there were certain places that belonged to the fairies, and you didn't go there. You certainly didn't build any structures there, and you didn't chop down their favorite trees. Or the fairies would bring their wrath down upon you, even with the capability of killing you. And Evans Wentz's landmark book on Celtic fairy lore documents some of those cases where people had their health and lives ruined and even ended when they incurred the wrath of the fairies. So we have these territory things. It goes back even further than that, because even Plato made the comment in Republic that human beings should know, he said men should know, implying human beings, that there were certain places on the earth that belonged to spirits. And we should recognize that and respect those. Basically, that's what he said. We should respect those territories. And we don't have those attitudes today. First of all, we've got a huge chunk of the population that doesn't believe in that stuff or would scoff at it. And we just come along and plunk down our structures wherever we want. And so maybe it's no wonder that we have some of these issues. In other cases, these entities have personal targets, and they may be a type of entity that looks for that sort of thing, like a parasite would look for a host. And so they find a person with a vulnerable energy field that they can attach to. And in other cases, and we see this with the jinn, that there are multi-generational curses going on, where maybe some ill will or curse or bad things happened in earlier generations, or the jinn were summoned up against somebody in a revenge situation, and they have the capability of following human beings through multi-generational lines to either carry out these ill wishes and curses, or because or else they might feel that human beings still owe them something. The jinn are bargainers, and if you want them to do something for you, they're going to want something back. It's not a one-way street. And so some of these situations can then get very complex with what all is going on, and then that affects the solution then that you're going to have to construct to remedy a particular situation.
And you have also mentioned before that some of these entities can become sexually attracted to their victims.
Well, sex is a very big part of it. And of course, sexual energy powers a lot of things. But the incubus, succubus sorts of situations have so many variations in entity encounters, experiences, and lore. And the shadow people are not known to be sexual predators, but there are other dark entities that are, and the incubus succubus would be probably the best configuration of that. Demonic entities. Norm asked before the last break about demons, and I did want to offer my view of demons on that, because we could say in the broadest sense that negative entities are demonic, because that's how we define demons, as negative, hostile, malevolent, soul-sucking, soul-destroying, that sort of thing. But we in the West have a very narrow view of demons. Ancient people and other cultures have a much broader view of demons than we do. And I guess you could say in one respect that the Christian church has demonized demons because it's boxed them into these servants of Satan who are all out malevolent attackers bent on destroying you, destroying your soul. And in ancient times and in other cultures, views of demons were much broader. Demons could even be beneficial in many regards. They could be called upon for favors. Some of them were tricksters. Some of them were malevolent. They really ran the gamut in terms of their motives and how they interacted with people. But in general, the demonic realm has throughout history been blamed for all of the ills of humanity, that they're troublemakers. At the very least, they're troublemakers. And at the very worst, they're life and soul destroyers. So we've got a very polarized view of demons in Western culture. All of these lieutenants under Satan, who was a concept that developed over time in the Christian church. Whereas outside of that view, demons are they're free agents. They're on their own, they're pursuing their own agendas. And I think that's the case with a lot of these entities. They have their own purposes and their own motives, and in terms of how and why they interact with people. In regard to the jinn, I think that they're a lot like human beings. Some of them are benevolent and enlightened, and some of them are neutral and ambivalent, and some of them are hostile. And we want to polarize everything. We want it to be black and white, and it's a very blurry landscape out there.
And we've got just a couple minutes before break, but Northern UFOs wanted me to ask you, would one's mood attract different types of entities? And I would say absolutely, but what are your thoughts?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch all of the question.
So would one's mood or disposition attract different types of entities?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I'd love to discuss that more in depth after the break. What we think and how we feel really determines the nature of our spirit experiences.
Okay. And that is important. And I know for me, when I've been to some of these active locations, I was mentioning on break, I get very, very drained when I come back, and it's harder and harder to get into that positive mindset, which I know makes me more vulnerable to things. And I think other people who live in these active areas have to be aware of that too. So I will get some good strategies from you to overcome that. And I'm really excited for the next segment of the show. I want to give everybody a big shout out. Amy, I will ask your question. Please go to visionarylivingpublishing.com to see all of Rosemary Ellen Guiley's wonderful books. We will be right back.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
1 million miles till midnight. A story of timelines, artificial worlds, simulated races, and the galactic imprint, and the destiny of a blue world called Earth. 1 million miles till midnight, written by Solaris Blue Raven, is a journey through the mind's eye which allows the reader to surf a wave of technological and multidimensional intellect, revealing a bridge between conscious design and the truth. A multidimensional bleed-through awakens the world of artificial intelligence to set sail into the frontiers of a vast multiverse, morphing planets and terraforming ascended worlds beyond the linear programs of a fated race. 1 million miles till midnight will awaken, inspire, prepare, and enlighten one to the many multidimensional states of consciousness and worlds we reside in. With every cell and atom, we are this truth and multiverse. 1 million miles till midnight. Written by Solaris Blue Raven. Available now at Amazon.com. Don't wait. Get your copy today.
It's great. I think it's great. It's great.
The all-new KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Great. Please make a note of it. It's great.
If ever a breed was affectionate to a fault, it's the Golden Retriever. They're people dogs, pure and simple. And the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada needs your help. If you would like to volunteer, foster, adopt, or donate, go to the Golden Retriever Rescue of Southern Nevada's website at grrsn.org. That's grrsn.org. Or call 598-GOLD. That's 598-GOLD.
Gee, it's so quiet. Too quiet. Terribly quiet. Awfully quiet.
Do you have an hour to kill? Well, crank up those EVPs, spirit boxes, and walk the haunted halls of the unknown with UK's very own paranormal investigator, David Cook.
You guys ready for this?
The Ghostly Hour, live Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern.
And now you're live.
Come hear first-hand accounts of some of the most famous ghost sightings, photos, and videos from around the world. Skeptics, believers, and spirits both good and bad. Welcome to the Ghostly Hour, hosted by David Cook. Live every Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad!
Oh, come on! This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts!
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back to the last segment of UFO Classified. Happy to be here on KCOR, and you can stick around for a great night of shows. Willie Miranda is coming up after my show. And next week, I want to tell you that I will be interviewing MUFON State Director Rob Zwitek, who I've had a great conversation with, and I look forward to giving you information about some of the cases that he has researched and some of his feelings and thoughts on To the Stars Academy and what is taking place currently in the field of ufology and maybe the field of governmental influence. This will be interesting. So make sure you tune in next Friday. I am here tonight with an amazing woman who has authored more than 65 books and has had personal experiences, has been intrigued with this subject her whole life, but really delved into it in 1983. Rosemary Ellen Guiley is, I'm stunned at what you're telling me, because everything you're telling me and my listening audience, they are things that I've experienced or things that I need to work on. And I'm so grateful that you're here tonight.
Well, it's certainly been an interesting discussion on all these topics.
Well, thank you. It's interesting though. I mean, we talk about Skinwalker Ranch, we talk about shadow people and the jinn and all of these things. All of these things are taking place all over the world, as you have stated, and they're more active in specific locations. And so, I mean, what do we do? How do we know if we're in a specific location, and how do we know whether that being in that location and having kind of the mindset that we do is not a productive thing for us?
So we're getting back to the question then about, do our moods and
yes,
feelings, yes, because what we think and how we feel, they're part of our energy field, and that's going to generate frequencies of subtle energy into the environment. And entities respond to that, good, neutral, negative. And so if somebody is in a very dark place emotionally, and especially for a prolonged period of time, that can attract the attention of negative entities that want to feed off that. It's literally food for them. So anybody, all people, it becomes very important to keep ourselves in as best health as we can on all fronts. It's especially important for people who are researching in this area, doing therapeutic work, investigative work, dealing with these situations, because we're coming into contact with so many intense energies. I have found, and I think most paranormal investigators have found this as well, that when you go into a place that's haunted, and I'm not thinking of places like asylums and whatnot, but, you're called into somebody's home because they're having difficulties, there's usually one person in the household who's the focal point, who's getting the brunt of it. And so that's the person to start with, to find out what's going on with that person. And they may just be one of these natural catalysts, trigger people, that they're born with something in their energy field that they're going to mix it up with these other realms more easily than others. But there's usually a focal person where the activity is concentrated, and then it kind of spreads out like ripples in a pond to other people in the household and affects them as well. There is a point of origin to every onset of negative phenomena, and stuff doesn't happen for no reason. And so it's important to find out what that point of origin is. Now, some people, for example, can move into an afflicted house, and so they're going to have problems from the get-go because there's something already there, and it's able to engage with them. Another family might move in and nothing would happen. But if a family is living in a house and there's really no activity going on, and then suddenly something starts to happen, there's a reason for it. And so you have to find out whether something came in on an object, something got attached to someone, what activities have been engaged in, what kind of emotional state, what are the relationship states. Sometimes just a lot of emotional tension in a household can project something into the environment. That's also one thing I would like to mention, that we can project our emotions and thoughts into the environment in intense ways that take on thought forms. And those thought forms have the capability of acting like spirits, or engaging with spirits, or being used by spirits. So we become part of our own problem then. And so that's why the emotional, spiritual, and mental and physical health of the individuals have to be examined. And so it becomes very complicated sometimes, Erica, to deal with these cases. There are no simple solutions, and all of us in the field have, heard from people, help, I've got something going on in my house. What do I do to get rid of it? It's like they want a simple solution, and sometimes there aren't any. I would also like to say a word, too, about the proliferation of demonic shows on TV. Not just the paranormal reality shows where everything has to be a demon these days, but the recreation shows where people move into houses and they start having spirit activity, and it's not just residual activity or benign ghost stuff. It's always demonic in nature. It's hostile, and people start getting injured. And I don't think these happen to most people. I think these cases are distinctly in the minority. And yet, because they're so popular on television, people are getting the impression that they happen all the time. And I think that's a dangerous mindset to get into.
And I have to ask you, because the more I look into some of the ways that I believe the UFO field has been manipulated to create certain emotions or to distract people, and now you see this proliferation of the demonic on TV, and then you also hear a lot about that with certain researchers, quote unquote, in the UFO field, and that's, everything's a demon or an angel. And for me, I think that is an incredibly dangerous place for us to be in a way that disempowers us and our own personal experiences.
Well, the thing about the emphasis on the demonic is it generates and perpetuates a state of fear. And that's the worst possible position to be in when dealing with anything in alternate realities or the spirit world. Fear enables everything out there to have the upper hand immediately. And it is so important. I've seen this in the paranormal so often, where people want to get into the paranormal and investigate, but they're afraid of things. And so their fear attracts what they're afraid of. And I see this over and over again. And if we're constantly portraying things as negative, scary, dangerous, life-threatening, demonic, it's going to perpetuate an attitude and an environment of fear. How are we ever going to positively embrace alternate reality future if we're afraid of it? We can't. So who's manipulating all of this fear? And I'm not a conspiracy person, but I do have to wonder sometimes who and what interests are pulling strings to keep people in such a state of fear about other entities and alternate realities.
Thank you for saying that, because I think this is really, really an important subject or point to hit upon, because you can see that. And I've been very fortunate that I've been collecting research, and I've got publications, periodicals from the 1940s onward, and I've got a huge library, and I've been looking back at the way this subject has been manipulated. And there have been a lot of religious groups that have interjected themselves, and this is God and, you know, the devil and different things. And this is there's so much more going on. Groups and people with negative mindsets can get in and manipulate this subject if we aren't careful and really step back. And so sometimes for me, as a person who can get bogged down in the research and looking into maybe the military, the involvement with intelligence into this subject, some of the current time things that are going on, it gets so negative to me that I have to step away and remember what I experienced when I had that personal interaction, because that was so profound and so powerful that I don't want those kind of labels that whoever this is putting on them to affect the wonder that I had when I had that experience.
Well, fear is very disempowering. And so if you keep people in a state of fear, and generate circumstances so that people live in fear all the time, they completely lose their power base. They're easy to manipulate. They're vulnerable. They won't take risks. They're more subject to manipulation. And I think that there's a lot of that going on. And so how these things are portrayed, how the media especially portrays our engagement with beings from other worlds, other realities, with the spirit world as well, it conditions us. And we're being conditioned in a very negative way right now. And I think that it has some serious implications for us, because here we are, we've got global mind now, thanks to social media and the internet. That's a very powerful thought form that can change physical reality. And that can be used in a positive way or a negative way. And there are tremendous forces being exerted upon us, we human beings, to keep us in a negative, disempowered frame of mind. And where is all this going? I think that's a question we need to look at.
And so what is your gut feeling on where all of this is going?
Well, I think we're really, we're at an important threshold where we have to be diligent about our destiny, our right to sovereignty, free will, self-determination. And global mind now is a very powerful thought form that can change reality. It can also be used to manipulate people, and we're being manipulated every day via the media and social media. We're being manipulated to emotionally respond to news, to stories, to situations, and how those situations are presented to us impacts us in terms of how we think and feel. So we're either going to feel very good or we're going to be very fearful. And I don't think there's a person out there that would deny that we have collectively been in a state of fear for some time now. And this makes us vulnerable to manipulation and subjugation. So we have to be ever more diligent and mindful about how we are participating in this thought form community that we have now. It's not going away. It's here permanently. We are in a global thought form community, and how are we participating in it?
And that is critical. It really is critical. And I think everyone that I have come in contact with lately has talked about the negativity and this depression and the thought of hopelessness. And I really feel, and have talked with people that feel that certain powers are pushing us into this Armageddon type mindset, and that is really dangerous. And we have, like you say, we are at this point in time where we can make that decision. We can empower ourselves, and we can say this isn't going to happen. We're going to get back to nature and reality and make a change for the better, or we cannot. And so I think it's important for us to disengage a lot from social media, from some of this constant negativity that we're involved in. And thank you for your thoughts. That's amazing. It's really powerful.
Well, it becomes very hard for people to think and act in visionary kinds of ways when their very ability to live well is being impacted. And that's what's hitting so many people. It's just being able to pay the bills, keep a roof over their heads, be able to walk out on the streets and go places without being worried about something, without being attacked. And when people feel that their fundamental life qualities are in jeopardy, they're going to retreat. They're going to pull in. They're going to be much easier to manipulate. And so I see this already going on, and it doesn't bode well for humanity in the future if we do not break those chains. And how we're going to break them, I don't have a solution for. I think a lot of people see what's going on, what the implications are of it, but how do we counteract it? And a lot of it is going to be through the power of consciousness. We have to recognize the power of our thoughts to create reality.
And that is absolutely something that I have witnessed. I mean, I know that when I put my mind to something and put it out there, whether positive or negative, that it does come back and it happens in one way or another. And I think that, I mean, I hate to say that The Secret, I mean, it was very simplistic, but I mean, that it is true, and there have been books written about the power of the subconscious mind for 50, 100 years. And it really is important right now, especially when people are trying to take our intuitive abilities away from us, the connectedness to other human beings, our ability to create and manifest what we deserve and want. And I think that it's just we have to find that power. And I can't tell you how much your thoughts and comments have meant to me tonight, as a researcher who's been through a lot, and I know that my guests feel the same way.
Well, thank you very much, Erica, and I've really appreciated our discussion tonight. And I know we're closing in on the last few minutes. I would like to mention this, that one of the things that has come out of experiencer surveys, and this was some of the work that Free did, pointed out that many people find their encounters with beings that we would call ETs, for lack of a better term, sometimes we don't know what they are, to be very positive in nature, and that just having contact is transformative for the experiencer, is heart-opening, is even brings side effects that are descriptive of Kundalini awakenings, just the very act of contact. And so maybe there are forces out there, spirit or entity, beings, that are doing what they can to counteract the negativity, the fear, by having encounters with individuals to awaken these sparks within people, to help them expand in positive ways. And that was one thing that surprised me out of the survey work that Free did. I mean, certainly there are people having the negative experiences still with the abductions and unpleasant encounters, but I was surprised at the number of people who reported very positive experiences. So that's very heartening.
It is. And when I get out there and I talk to people, I mean, you hear people who are traumatized because they're dealing with something that is so out of the ordinary, but then you talk to people who have been empowered or set on a different, more positive path. And so, as you've mentioned multiple times tonight, this really does run the gamut, and it's important for us not to be led down one particular rabbit hole. And I again, like I say, I feel that we firmly need to be empowered with our own experiences and not put them into a box. So I thank you so much. Where can people find you? Where are you speaking next? What is your next project?
I just have a couple of speaking engagements for the rest of this year. I'll be at the Victory of Light Metaphysical Expo in Cincinnati next weekend, at Paranormal Meetup in Fishkill on Monday. I will be at the Alien Snowfest at Big Bear Lake in California last week in January. Very excited about that. And if you go on visionaryliving.com, I have a lot of my activities already up on my calendar for next year. Visionarylivingpublishing.com is my publishing website, and my publishing company has about 30-some books out now on UFOs, the paranormal, cryptids, metaphysics, and I'm also getting into fiction.
I love it. I want to have you back. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Rosemary Ellen Guiley, that show was off the hook. I want to give you all a big shout out. Thank you for listening. Stick around for the Paradigm Matrix. And Willie Miranda, of course, has some great guests tonight. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Northern UFOs. Have a wonderful and safe weekend. Make sure you come back next Friday because Rob Zwitek will be in the house. Take care. Have a good night.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at UFOclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 50.